Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Senior Vice President of Marketing and Communications at Consumer Technology Association, Jean Foster.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our conversation on the future of transportation. We're seeing a revolution on our roadways as an increasingly large percentage of the global fleet goes electric, and autonomous vehicle technology gets us closer to full self-driving capacity. If any of you have had a chance to go downstairs to the show floor and see that, you've seen all sorts of technology represented there over the last few days. But the future of transportation isn't just about transforming our cars and trucks. It's introducing drone technology to deliver goods to our homes. It is introducing Hyperloop technologies that can transport us between cities in what feels like a blink of an eye. And it's about reshaping the landscape of our cities and towns with new smart technologies that reduce emissions, improve safety, and create more accessible public spaces. We've seen some incredible innovations in the mobility space here at CES, but deploying next-generation transportation tech will require the government to keep up. We need smart policies that encourage innovation rather than stifle it. Luckily, joining us today is someone who understands the importance of collaboration between business and government, U.S. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg. During his tenure as mayor of South Bend, Indiana, Mayor Pete, as we all love to call him, launched Smart Streets, an initiative to improve street design and bring new investment to the city's downtown. Since taking the helm at the U.S. Department of Transportation, Buttigieg has emphasized the need for government to keep up with new technologies. He has highlighted the transformative power of tech like self-driving vehicles and electric cars, and he's encouraged regulatory flexibility to support innovation. While he couldn't join us today in person, I'm very pleased to welcome U.S. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg for virtual keynote remarks. After his remarks, I'll be coming back on stage and I'll be welcoming Qualcomm CEO Cristiano Amon to join me here for a fireside chat. So please enjoy Pete Buttigieg's presentation. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Secretary Pete Buttigieg, and it's an honor to address this year's CES. I wish that I could be joining you in person, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to address so many inspiring innovators. Transportation and technology have always gone together, certainly at least since the time when some unnamed ancient innovator created humanity's first most famous early invention, a transportation-related innovation, the wheel. Ever since then, so much of our imagination and achievements in technology have had something to do with transportation. From e-scooters to spacecraft to GPS to subways, technology shapes most human journeys, whether it's a historic spaceflight or a daily commute. At the Department of Transportation, my colleagues and I think every day about how transportation technologies are evolving, and we use our policy tools to support these innovations and make sure that they deliver convenience, safety, and economic opportunity for the American people. History often celebrates the individual visionaries behind so many of our greatest achievements, and rightly so. But often history forgets that good government and wise policy has played a very important role in supporting the development of many, if not most, of our greatest technologies. So today, I want to speak to you about the role of the public sector in steering innovation toward the public good, where I believe government needs to lean in, and where government should seek to get out of the way. As CES makes clear, the pace of innovation is accelerating. This year's conference features everything from self-driving race cars to handheld brain injury scanners to AI-powered space travel. Some of the most exciting new frontiers are happening in my field, transportation. We very much live in a time when innovation is shaping and reshaping how people and goods move to where they need to be. But also, in recent years, innovation has become such a buzzword that it is at risk of losing all of its meaning. And for policymakers, that carries the risk of us losing our focus as we contend with the constantly shifting and rapidly developing world of transportation technology. As policymakers, we have to prioritize. We need to assess which important innovations will develop on their own and which require federal support for basic research. We must consider when a technology should be given as much room as possible to develop on an experimental basis, and when it's reached the point when it raises concerns that require regulation to keep the American people safe. The current decade is especially full of challenges and opportunities from developments in transportation technology. We are witnessing the rise of electric and autonomous vehicles, the widespread adoption of recreational and commercial drones, renewed attention to cybersecurity vulnerabilities in our infrastructure, increasingly routine commercial space travel, and perhaps most urgently, the high-stakes race to dramatically reduce transportation's impact on our climate before it's too late. And all of this is happening at a time when the tech sector is wrestling with its own challenges, coming to terms with its broader social impacts, dealing with issues from how to ensure that your industries reflect the full diversity of the American people, to how we make sure new technological developments serve to empower and not undermine the economic well-being of workers. Of course, innovation doesn't just come from Silicon Valley, and it doesn't always involve a shiny new piece of technology. In fact, a lot of innovation is happening in the civic space, coming from our cities and states. In the wake of the pandemic, transit agencies introduced new measures to keep their workers and riders safe, from PPE vending machines to ultraviolet light disinfecting bus fleets to mobile ticket validations that show passengers how full their ride is before they board. Some of the most important innovations were deceptively low-tech, as cities began reimagining how to use public spaces with new ways to facilitate outdoor dining and active transportation like walking and biking. Local traffic safety advocates have developed creative new ways to reduce car crashes, which range from seemingly simple ideas like longer-lasting lane markings so it's easier for drivers to stay in their lane, to complex solutions like using citywide video analytics to identify dangerous traffic patterns in real time. As a former mayor, I'm especially interested in the innovations that work best when no one even notices they're there, like pavements that last longer or are even self-healing so that you don't ever experience a rough road or a pothole and the damage to your car that goes with it. Those kinds of developments may not sound sexy compared to something like commercial space travel, but pavement innovation may do more for Americans in our lifetime than most exciting transportation innovations that are out there. The advancements that have shaped transportation in both historic and everyday fashion, they don't happen in a vacuum. They result from discoveries made in a context of public and societal readiness for innovation and investment. We've got to be intentional about how all of this fits together and about the specific role of the public sector. That's why today, for the first time in our history, the Department of Transportation is establishing a set of 6 guiding principles for our work on innovation in transportation. The first principle is that innovation is not an end in itself. It's a chance to improve everyday life. So our department's innovation efforts should always be serving key public policy priorities, like creating economic opportunity, advancing equitable access to transportation, and of course, helping to confront the climate crisis. Second, innovation should be shaped in ways that help America win the 21st century, prioritized with a view to the competitive nature of the world we're in, with transportation systems and infrastructure that make communities more adaptable and resilient in the face of that global competition. Third, we need innovation strategies that support workers, knowing that our choices help to define and decide whether any given technological development meets its potential to create economic benefits for everyone. Fourth, a good innovation strategy is one that allows for experimentation and learns from setbacks, because these are such an important part of the discovery process. I know something like that seems obvious in the tech world, but in the world of government, this requires a lot of work and adaptability amid a culture that, often for good reason, is deeply risk-averse. Fifth, our approaches to innovation should center on opportunities to collaborate, recognizing that the public sector, the private sector, and the academic sector all have distinct but related roles. And sixth, finally, our policies should be flexible and ready to adapt as technology changes. And again, this might seem obvious in the tech world, but is something that is going to require a great deal of imagination as we set up our policy and legal frameworks for the years to come. Together, these principles will ensure that the enormous potential of U.S. transportation innovation serves to benefit our nation and its people, And we're looking forward to discussing this more with scholars, organized labor, safety advocates, private sector technologists, and other stakeholders in the weeks and months ahead. Soon, our team will launch a new means for better engaging with our non-federal partners to identify challenges and develop solutions. And we'll be reaching out soon with more details. I know that for some, government and innovation are not words that naturally go together. But the reality is the public sector has always played a crucial role in unlocking the innovative capacity of the American people. Government historically has had several important roles. One, perhaps among the most important, is that we often fund what economists would call general purpose technologies, inventions that have the potential to drive enormous growth, but that might not turn a near-term profit. When the process works well, publicly supported discoveries coming from basic research can then be used to reach full-scale and practical uses in private hands. Consider the smartphone, an invention that's transformed the way we live in a matter of just a few years. Smartphones could only be the result of private sector inventions and marketing, often the natural role of private companies, not government agencies. But the technologies on which smartphones depend, microprocessors, lithium batteries, touchscreens, GPS, and most significantly, the internet itself, all were supported or even literally invented by government researchers. Or to take an example more specific to transportation, bear in mind that public investments in automated vehicles date back decades, helping to lay crucial groundwork for the dazzling progress and innovations that are being showcased by private sector actors today, including at CES. Some of our most famous and important tech companies, including Google, Apple, and Tesla, benefited from government subsidies, loan guarantees, and/or other forms of public support early in their growth. Government invests in pursuit of a different kind of return than what the private sector seeks. Not a direct financial return on investment, but benefits to the American people. And when we get it right, it complements what business does best, which is developing great ideas and efficiently, profitably bringing them to market. Meanwhile, public investments also play a role creating the operating environment, or to use another term, the infrastructure, for private inventions and operations to reach their full potential. Government didn't invent the plane or the train or the automobile, but government did build airports, lay tracks, and construct highways. And most importantly, good government made sure each of these innovations was safe for the people who count on them every day. In the late 19th century, as railroads were proliferating across the country, hundreds of passengers and thousands of rail workers lost their lives every year. So Congress passed a series of laws requiring modern safety measures like air brakes and automatic couplers for every train, which led to a sharp drop in deaths and injuries. When the first commercial airplanes took to the skies, hundreds of them crashed or went missing every year. So America created the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, and a national air traffic control system. And today, flying is the safest way to travel. When automobiles were first invented, traffic fatalities skyrocketed as new cars tore down streets once used only by pedestrians and horses. But when we passed laws requiring seatbelts, airbags, and sober driving, fatalities came down, although we still have a long way to go. Now, importantly, these safety improvements didn't just benefit the public. They ultimately helped industry as well, creating more certainty and confidence that someone could count on a very high level of safety when they weighed whether to take a job on the railroad, or purchase a plane ticket, or buy a car. The lessons that we learned from each of these transportation revolutions still apply today. We shouldn't have to wait until a new piece of technology is dangerous to the public to act. We should plan proactively to support the growth of new ideas and to make sure that Americans share in the benefits. Again, consider autonomous vehicles. For all of their potential, they've also raised complicated, even philosophical questions about safety, equity, and our workforce. It's why last year we at DOT announced a standing general order that requires crash reports and information from testers, operators, and manufacturers of those vehicles so that we can identify safety concerns and collaborate to address them early. We're also taking steps to establish new testing standards and create a national incident database for crashes involving AVs. And we're working closely with our partners, especially organized labor, to evaluate and address the potential consequences of automation for our workforce and from the perspective of equity. All of this is taking place as we look ahead to a future of transportation that will be as dynamic as anything America has experienced. From the Intercontinental Railroad to the Wright brothers to Apollo 11, transportation has always been a frontier for American innovation. The frontiers ahead of us and our generations will reach even more intimately into our daily lives. Today's small-scale projects that use drones to inspect bridges, care for crops, or deliver medicine to homebound seniors have the potential to expand across the nation into uses that are part of the fabric of everyday life. In our lifetimes, we could see truly smart cities built on the connected technology showcased at CES, where cars, buses, and infrastructure all communicate with each other to plot safer routes and use less energy. We could even see regular suborbital spaceflight that transforms international travel and brings the world even closer together. Some of these advancements will come slowly, others are already on their way. And the nature of innovation means that anyone who tries to guess which transformations will happen in which order and by what date will probably be proven wrong. But we are learning every day from the developments that are happening around us right now. As Secretary of Transportation, I've had the privilege of seeing a lot of these developments firsthand. In Georgia last year, I saw the nation's first ever solar roadway, which provides clean power for nearby electric vehicle chargers. In Oregon, I test drove one of the electric buses that cities around the country are embracing as cleaner and quieter alternatives to outdated diesel vehicles. In North Carolina, I visited an advanced research lab working on that vital, if unsexy subject that I mentioned earlier, the future of pavement, including the potential for more durable asphalt and even materials that can recycle carbon dioxide. American companies and scientists are at work every day pushing the boundaries of what is possible in transportation. And our department is at work every day preparing for these developments, supporting them directly or indirectly, and maintaining the guardrails that help those technologies unfold in ways that are safe, equitable, and clean. In the years ahead, our core principles will guide that work. And thanks to the President's historic bipartisan infrastructure law, we now have new resources to support those efforts. The investments in that law, the agenda to build a better America, will help more Americans purchase affordable EVs and save money on gas. They'll help more children take the bus to school without being exposed to toxic fumes. And they will put more people to work creating the infrastructure of the future. The infrastructure law also creates a fund for major projects that are too large or complex for traditional funding systems. It's a huge opportunity and a big challenge because alongside that funding, it will be vitally important for us to improve our country's track record when it comes to delivering big infrastructure projects on time, on task, and on budget. Innovation isn't just about the technologies themselves, it's about how we deliver transportation resources cost effectively and quickly. And that calls for us to reinvent the machinery of government itself just as much as any piece of transportation equipment. There's more in this bill. It provides $500 million in funding to the SMART program to kickstart a new generation of smart city innovation. It invests in university transportation centers that work on climate, equity, and innovation, including at HBCUs and other minority-serving institutions. It even includes a vision to set up a future Advanced Research Projects Agency for Infrastructure, ARPA-I, modeled after DARPA and ARPA-E, for energy. This is a chance to scale up our R&D efforts, to keep pace with innovation and help to drive it. And of course, we will be evaluating every project that we fund with consideration to these 6 new principles, not acquiring or deploying technology for its own sake, but using innovation as a powerful tool to advance our goals and reflect our American values. Before ending my remarks, I want to make the modest suggestion that the future of democratic civilization will depend partly on our ability to deliver tangible improvements in very basic experiences, like the delivery of goods and the availability of safe and efficient transportation. Today marks 1 year since we all watched as a violent insurrection at the U.S. Capitol shook the very foundations of our democratic system. The events of that day were planned by domestic extremists and stoked by poisonous misinformation. But they were also fueled, in part, by a public perception that extends far beyond the rioters. There's a belief that our institutions and the people who lead them cannot be trusted because they do not deliver. Across the board, public trust in our institutions, government, corporations, media, even philanthropy, has been careening toward an all-time low in recent years. And volumes of commentary could be and have been written about the various reasons contributing to that problem. But I'm convinced that one of the most important solutions is to make sure that the actual outcomes of public policy are better and better understood, and that they're better not just for a select few, but for all Americans. Whether it has to do with getting to work on time or preventing climate disaster, the quality of everyday life for countless people depends partly on how well the people who work on transportation in the 2020s can deliver. And that, in turn, will require us to innovate, not just in the technologies we create, but in the equipment of government, academia, and industry, in their governance, and in how they relate to each other. The durability of the American project and the extent to which America is admired around the world have always depended not just on the elegance of our constitutional and market principles, but on the ways in which everyday life is tangibly better under a system where people choose their government and where the marketplace is allowed and encouraged to function. No one knows exactly what's next. Which of the innovations now being developed will reshape our lives, how quickly or how slowly. Less than 60 years passed between the first flight at Kitty Hawk and the first crewed American spaceflight. Less than 10 years after the first smartphones hit the market, ride-sharing was overtaking taxi use in American cities. Meanwhile, electric vehicles were in commercial production in 1902 at Studebaker factories in my hometown of South Bend, Indiana, only to all but vanish for the next 100 years, and then begin to reemerge as a potentially dominant force in the 21st century. It's not the job of policymakers to guess or to dictate how and when these advancements unfold. But our role in supporting, fostering, and safeguarding the work of transportation innovation is vital, and it comes at an exceptionally important time in the story of American transportation. The decade ahead will bring countless transformative changes in how people and goods move around the country and around the world. And the Department of Transportation will be there, working with innovators like those at CES to help support these patterns of innovation and make sure these developments benefit the American people. Thank you for what you do, and thank you for the opportunity to address you today.
So thank you to Secretary Buttigieg. That was a great presentation, and we're so happy that he was able to make the time to join us, albeit virtually, today. And as he says, government plays a critical role in supporting innovation that benefits society. And here at CES, we're getting a first-hand look at some of the technology that is going to drive, and no pun intended there, but is going to drive that change. To tell us more about what's ahead, I want to welcome Cristiano Amon, President and Chief Executive Officer of Qualcomm, and a member of the Qualcomm Board of Directors. In a career with Qualcomm spanning over 25 years, he's shaped the company's strategic direction, spearheading Qualcomm's 5G strategy and global rollout, and has led the company's strategic expansion into new industries like automotive. So please join me in welcoming Cristiano to the stage. So, bem-vindo.
Muito obrigado. That's a nice touch. Thank you very much. Very happy to be here. Good afternoon, everyone.
And Brazil is well represented here today at CES. You're our second Brazilian keynote speaker.
That's very good.
Yes. So, but thank you for joining us. So, I had the benefit of having a tour of the booth downstairs, and I looked at that and I said, okay, is Qualcomm a transportation company?
Why not? There's so much technology changes happening within transportation. I think just the automobile has been completely transformed. I think as we think about the car in the 21st century, it's a whole different experience. It's a computer on wheels. auto companies are now technology companies, so it was a natural thing for a technology company like Qualcomm to be involved in automotive, and we're very excited about what we can contribute to that industry.
So that's great, and I encourage everybody, if you haven't had a chance to go check it out downstairs, then please do so. So Secretary Buttigieg spoke about the importance of innovation and investment. Talk to us a little bit about how Qualcomm is focused on these areas.
Yes, the company is really been built, and everything we do is based on innovation. We have one of the largest R&D with the fundamental research. We create standards in a number of different areas within communications and processing. Our cumulative, R&D investment today, it exceeds $73 billion. And we have been very focused in looking at technology disruptions and how we could bring the benefit of connectivity and advanced efficient low-power processing to many industries, including the automotive and transportation. And when we look at what's happening in transportation, it's part of this story where everything is getting connected and becoming intelligent. We can talk more about that later, but traffic lights become connected intelligent. Cars are connected intelligent. Bicycles connected intelligent. Pedestrians through their smartphone that they carry are becoming, connected and intelligent. And with that, you can build a completely intelligent transportation system as a whole that it's part of the broad digital transformation that we're seeing happening across virtually every industry. So it's a natural area for research and technology. And a company like Qualcomm, with our key assets is everything connectivity and everything high performance, smart computing with low power. We see how we can apply those technologies innovation to the sector as well.
Great. So talk about we've been talking at CES here for years about 5G. Tell us where we are in the latest in terms of the commercialization of 5G and what kind of technologies and more importantly, what kind of use cases should we expect to see now and in the future?
Oh, I love talking about this. 5G, it's doing great, and we never had a transition of a generation of wireless that people come and say, why is it not here yet? Why is it not here yet? It's fascinating when we look about 3G, early days of 3G, early days of 4G, people asking, what do I do with the technology? Now people just want 5G, they want higher speeds. We're seeing, comparing to a transition that we saw from 3G to 4G, 4G to 5G is tracking 2 years faster. We have now virtually every operator in the world, investing, deploying, planning, or already commercial launch 5G. There's, I believe, there's now a total of 9 countries with 5G. And what is unique about 5G is a technology that is being designed to be really a universal last mile access, not only for phones, but for everything. From computers, from virtual reality devices, augmented reality devices, connected cars, and connected everything. And I think we have a very exciting future ahead for 5G. It's the first time that the wireless industry now have a general purpose technology like electricity, and then I'm going to answer your question about the use cases. But in the future, we're not going to talk about the use cases. We're just going to assume that everything is connected, and when it's not connected, that's going to be the exception. Now, let me talk about use cases, and I want to bring the conversation to the topic of transportation. 5G has a number of applications from consumer to the enterprise into industrial. So in the consumer, the easiest thing to see is as it has a very high speed and it has the ability to be a reliable connectivity that you can depend upon, we're going to see new things coming to the consumer space. The same way the 4G democratized music. People don't buy CDs anymore. Some are buying vinyl back, like my daughter, but that's a different thing. And you stream music no matter where you are. You stream music to your car, and even if you don't have a good connection, you have enough speed on 4G to stream music. That is what's going to happen with high definition video in both directions with 5G. It's going to democratize video. Now, as you have a technology that has a high speed, low latency, and it's reliable, you're going to start to see other applications. For example, mainstream gaming is going to become a streaming service, and it's going to be part of 5G. It's going to change social. As it changes all of the type of services, is going to change the form factor of the device. We've been talking for a long time that augmented reality is going to be very important, and we actually believe in Qualcomm we have this bold vision that the next computing platform that is going to replace your smartphone is going to likely be connected augmented reality glasses. And you can see how that can change with this technology use cases. For example, we use our phones to communicate with each other, and it's fascinating to watch. In the 2G days, it's about getting everybody with a phone. 3G, you started to have data, and we will make phone calls like this. 4G area, you see everybody holding the phone and they're texting each other. But now, what we saw within the last 2 years, the video telephony finally became a killer application, and people now talk to each other holding their phones like that. That's starting to change the form factor. For example, it's no longer a technology challenge if you have an augmented reality glasses and you're just going to have a call and you choose to move that call to your glass and you render somebody right in front of you like you have a video call. So you can see how 5G, as it gets mature, is going to change a lot of the form factors as well as the new services, and that's why we also believe has a huge potential to change social. Now, quickly, I'm going to shift to how we think about applications beyond consumer, beyond the phones. We see right now that work from anywhere, and what we learned through the past 2 years, that you need a connectivity becomes very important, and started to redefine those use cases, started to redefine what a computer looked like. Number one application on a PC right now is communications. Camera become important, connectivity become important. CIOs know that you're going to work sometimes in the office, sometimes in the home or somewhere else. I want all the data to move to the cloud. You need to have the ability to high speed to access the data. Another case of 5G that nobody talks about it, and it's super exciting, is it democratizes computing power. If you have a workstation in your office and you're doing, like, for example, what some engineers do, you do advanced semiconductor development, you do VLSI design, you have a very high performance workstation. If you're going to go home, you won't be able to take the workstation with you. So more and more you hear companies like Microsoft with Azure, Amazon with AWS talking about driving all the workloads in the cloud. You can do that. And 5G will make your computer just an extension of the cloud. And then all the way to what is actually happening now in manufacturing. It's happening in smart cities. It's happening in retail. So 5G is really going anywhere. And I want to just finish that part of the conversation, give you some examples of how it actually changes within the transportation sector. One of the, I know you mentioned when we were talking back then that you had a portion of your career work at British Telecom. So when a British Telecom, we start working with them on 5G in the launch, we did together a project that was the 5G connected ambulance for first responders. So you have a high connectivity 5G, high performance to support mission critical. What the 5G connected ambulance could do is when something happened and the first responders show up, within the ambulance you can do high definition image exams, send over 5G to the hospital, to doctors that can watch over the panel, and then the process of doing the triage and determining how to make the diagnostics and what's going to be required, you just got that whole thing.
So it starts in the ambulance?
It starts in the ambulance.
Wow.
And you can see the power of bringing connectivity and advanced processing can really transform many things and will help us build an intelligent transportation network.
That's really fascinating. We're seeing a lot, even some of the use cases that we're seeing, here, like with the Indy Autonomous Challenge and the race cars. While we're focusing on entertainment and racing, it's the actual use cases and things that actually can spin out as well. And what we learn there is really fascinating. So let's keep on the area of like transportation and mobility. Can you talk about some of the other areas that you're investing in that area and some of the other technologies?
So maybe I'll go from what are we doing for the future of the automotive, and all the way to how the automotive now is part of a network of intelligent transportation. I like to think it that way. So one of the things we're doing, we announced during the show, we're getting more and more traction about the digital chassis. We're building a digital chassis platform for the automakers. And that's the right thing for a company like Qualcomm to do. We have been successful. What we have done in mobile is about being a horizontal platform that allow all of our customers to innovate, build a platform for innovation, and really build an ecosystem around it. If you look what's happening is some of the most valuable automotive companies right now, and it's because they have the technology capabilities. The car is really, advanced connected computer on wheels. And many of the car companies are building and developing those assets, and they need the platform. So the car companies that succeeded over the past several decades were the ones that were building platform. They will build, a unibody or a chassis, and they will take that across multiple brands. They take that multi-generation. They will develop, combustion engine, like 4, 6, 8 cylinder. They take that up and down and left and right, and they have those platforms that stay generation after generation. They couldn't afford to do what expected from consumers of cars in the future by picking individual components and look at electronics and digital as it was done in the past. They need somebody to build a platform, and that's what we're building. And we're very happy to continue to show momentum for a digital chassis with the show, and includes basically all the capabilities that you need, from connecting the car to the cloud, from a service platform, as is a car connected, you have distribution of media, you have information, data analytics, you get to know your customer better and all of those things, from the complete digital cockpit experience, how you interact with your car, to ADAS and autonomy. And we continue to see increased traction for that, and we're very happy on how we can be, the partner of choice of the automotive companies as they think about digital. Now, the second part of the conversation, and where we have a lot of R&D, is now think about this concept that this car now is part of a network. So the car is connected to the cloud, it's digital, but you have all the other cars and everybody else on the road, and that's a necessary step as we think about intelligent transportation. Now the car is part of this network. So the car, using connectivity, can connect to the cloud, to every other car in the road, to every bicycle, to every pedestrian, connect to the traffic lights. And you can start to see how it changes and the benefits when you put this technology in place. Let's talk about safety as a first example. We talk a lot about autonomy and ADAS, but let's say you're driving, in your car you have today, we all have a navigation system, you have your map. You show the GPS will show the car moving in the map. Sometimes you get colors, green, red, and yellow about the traffic situation. Now think about you populate that map in real time with every other car, direction of traffic, every other pedestrian, every other bicycle. In the infrastructure, the traffic signs. The traffic signs doesn't have to be static, could be connected intelligent thing. So a car will tell you, please adjust your speed for you to get green next, or this many seconds for you, for red or for green. Mm-hmm. The car will say in the next intersection, there is somebody coming at a higher speed than it should be braking, pay attention, alert. Look at you as a driver and insert you within that network. And I think that's what we're going to see as this technology starts to come in. And now every other car in the road has been to the process of transformation, and everything is connected.
I just going back to the concept of it struck me the concept of the digital chassis, which to me was just, it was so innovative, and it did take me back to telecom time, because it is, I think about everybody else looking at technology in cars, it's component parts versus the entire horizontal platform, which is fascinating. So you started talking there about personal cars evolving. Have you seen, has the pandemic kind of reshaped that trajectory of change and consumer interest in, in these vehicles?
As far as our view on the passenger car vehicle, I think it's not. I won't point to the pandemic. I will point to we have, coming from a Qualcomm viewpoint, we have a very mature mobile society today. We're all connected. Our smartphone are an inseparable device. It was very easy for us to see what we needed to do to become a leader in digital cockpit, because people will drive their cars looking at their phones. They shouldn't be doing this, but that's because there's more information that is relevant to you when you're behind the wheel of your phone. And I think what happened is consumer cars today, one of the most important buying decisions is how do they interact with the car, the digital cockpit experience. That, more than anything, is changing how cars are designed. To the point that, you look at new car buyers, it's all about the technology in the car versus other criteria that we saw in consumer decision in the past. And I think that is the biggest transformation we're seeing.
The biggest change, yeah. So Qualcomm leaders have talked about the drive of the future. What does that mean? Explain that to us, and what does it mean in terms of how cities would change to respond?
We think that technologies, for example, such as ADAS, should be as pervasive as ABS and airbags. There's no reason why you should not have this in every car. Actually, I will argue, I'll tell a little bit of a story, bringing back, I think, our respective telecom experiences. For safety reasons, the United States government had decided for E911 to mandate GPS in every phone. That decision created a revolution of technology innovation. Once you have a GPS in every phone, you saw what happened. There will be no Uber if there will be no ride sharing if there wasn't a GPS in every phone. So we think that there's opportunities also when you think about the driver of the future and safety to have those technologies. We would love to have, for example, car connectivity to each other car, the traffic lights, pedestrians and bikes, to be mandated, because actually all of a sudden you build a network of those connectors, and that's going to change the driver experience. Whether you're driving or whether you're going to rely on autonomous assisted driving systems, you're going to get monitored. As for everything else, the networks get monitored, and we're going to try to drive to a zero accident, future of transportation.
So, what are the key challenges that smarter transportation system, and how are you working to overcome those?
I'll say the challenge number one, and I'll point to some of the conversations we had earlier about 5G, is you have to get it deployed. You have to get it done. You have to get the larger percentage of cars to be connected with the technology, with those systems. So it's just time and the ability to get, partnerships between not only the private sector, but with the public and governments to see the benefit of the technology and then make it easy to get adoption. There is no question that we're seeing a complete transformation of the automotive industry and transportation. There's no question we see services are changing, how people think about the use of the car, what is the role of commercial vehicles, how that it become an essential part of the whole e-commerce culture that we have. And there is an important role that technology needs to play. We just need to get technology in every single car.
We're almost there. So I'd like to kind of just change track slightly. We've talked a lot about technology, but I also want to talk more about Qualcomm. So I've had a chance to spend time. I met with your CMO yesterday. Everybody I meet at Qualcomm is like you, hugely passionate about their job, which I love. But let's talk a little bit about digital inclusion and sustainability, because those are major topics of discussion, both here at CES and across the business world. How do these factors influence your approach to product development and future planning? And also just, tell us about that ethos at Qualcomm.
All right, well, very good. So maybe I'll do that in reverse order. In the whole conversation about sustainability, I'll give you some statistic. As you deploy technology such as 5G, and you get that pervasive across not only phones, but cars and everything else. There are studies that show that just on the current track, by 2025, the reduction in greenhouse gas emissions will be equivalent of taking 81 million cars off the road for a year. And in overall, when you think about overall, in the United States will be the equivalent of having fuel efficiency, improvement by in the order of 20%. That's massive. One of the, I've been into the CES for many, many years. And you can see, as you follow CES, I have the privilege to be working in the wireless industry to every generation of wireless. And as you see in CES, you see the show and the companies and the products evolving. One of the biggest contributions of the wireless industry for sustainability, and we don't get to deserve credit, is the amount of electronic devices that got incorporated into the smartphone is incredible, right? If you look, the smartphone right now is the consumer electronic device, is your portable video player, is your portable music player, is your camera, is your computer, is everything. So I think in general, technology has done a lot in this area, and there's a lot more to be done. As we build the process of connecting everything in the connected intelligent edge, as we get everything connected to the cloud 100% of the time, we're going to see further efficiency gains, and we'll continue to see the benefit. And then I'm going to lead that into conversation about how do we continue to bridge the digital divide. We're very proud because what the wireless industry have done, the smartphone it was not like one computer per person. The smartphone was how many countries got access to the internet for the very first time, how people became connected to the internet for the very first time. In some of the countries that had access to digital later, we saw that the mobile internet developed faster than the traditional internet. So the role, I think, of connecting people and bridging the digital divide of the smartphone is massive. What 5G is going to do now is going to take that further. And that's why we always believe, in the potential of this technology, because you can democratize computing power. You will be able to have, through the cloud and the ability to use 5G as something that connects to the cloud and allow you to tap on demand to the computational power on the cloud. It's like computation on demand. You have access to the computational power to do anything you want, for people, for entrepreneurs, for creation, for productivity, and I think that's going to be another very important step in bridging the digital divide. Now I'm going to answer your question about Qualcomm. Look, Qualcomm is I'm very biased. I love this company. I joined the company as an engineer back in 1995 before the very first CDMA launch. And it's a company that is very focused on technology. I tell people, if you really want to work in wireless, if you want to work in advanced low-power computational platforms of the future, I think there's no better place to be. It's really an engineering culture, but more important than that, people at Qualcomm know that what we do can make a difference in the society, and you can see the fruit of that work as the whole society gets transformed by the technology, and I think that's what keeps us going.
Great. So we've got a couple of minutes left, and actually, so Cristiano thought it was important that we could actually open this up to questions, because you guys have all made it here to join us in the room, which we really appreciate. So I don't know if we've got a microphone anywhere, but you might just have to raise your voice. But gentleman at the front.
Yes, I'll try to shout out. My name is Khaled Fatal. I'm the editor-in-chief of Survivability News, and by the time we're done, Cristiano, please say hello to Mark.
Okay.
For a long time.
Will do.
I appreciate we are at CES, we're telling a great story, and I think you guys have told a very good, positive story. But it comes with challenges, and the challenge, I think you asked the question about it, but I think what I would like to ask you, Cristiano, here is, with the challenges and the threats from cyber, and it's not just cybersecurity threats, but also the motivation that go beyond financial interest. political, geopolitical, terrorism, all that stuff, the greater the level of connectivity, which is exactly what you talked about and you envisaged that we will get there, the greater the connectivity, the greater the risk. And I wanted to know, does that make you sleep not well at night? And what is it you are doing
Yes.
to make sure that this vision does bear fruit to the point that it does serve society the way you just described it?
Look, that's a great question. Actually, thank you for asking this question. The reality is we are today in a global interconnected society. That's the reality. And I think that the direction, it will be continue to see things being more and more connected. I'll be honest, this is actually, it is a huge challenge, but at the same time that it's a challenge, it's a huge opportunity. There never been more awareness about the importance of cybersecurity now than compared, to the past. And right now, it is driving companies like Qualcomm to develop technology with that in mind. One of the largest investments, and I think it's another area that we don't get credit for. One of the biggest, I think, technology innovation when we talk about our next generation Snapdragon, and we announced it back in December, was what we're doing on the security standpoint and how we apply artificial intelligence and the knowledge that you have of the user to protect the user. So I believe that tech companies that are going to be selected as the trusted partners, not only for their customers, but the society, and the ones that are going to take security very seriously. And the fact that we have a larger surface area, it can also be an opportunity to make sure, our cities and our companies and our information is safe. The awareness that exists right now on the importance of privacy of user data and how do you build reliable platforms and safe platforms, I believe is going to create a leapfrog in innovation on the security standpoint.
Great question. Any other questions?
Can I use the microphone and ask the question? Hello.
Yes.
Yes, hello, here I am.
I can see you now.
Yes, very, very nice. Thank you for a fascinating session. Lady Racket, founder of Copernic Space. We are using blockchain NFTs to finance space innovation, which is so difficult to finance, I am sure you know. I would love to invite you to visit one of our locations next to Qualcomm, where you can see innovation of sending to the moon 5G network. Actually, the company that we collaborate with and want to finance, Lunar Outpost, already has Nokia sign up to try to test 5G network on the moon. Copernic Space is helping with it. Would love to see if Qualcomm could join our American quest to bring this technology where the next economy resides. May we invite you?
All right, thank you so much.
So what do you think of space?
Okay, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm going to use the opportunity as you asked the question to mention something which I forgot to as we think about use cases of 5G and things like that. You mentioned blockchain NFT.
Yes.
So one of the things we do at Qualcomm, we're trying to look at things, beyond the next immediate, expectation of technology about what the technology can do. And it's interesting when we announced back in just December, last year, our latest generation, flagship Snapdragon, the 8 series generation 1 for mobile. We announced a feature. It was interesting. It didn't get a lot of, the industry will think about the overall performance and camera and all this. But we announced for the first time that your smartphone can mint your NFT at the smartphone and allow creators, because we believe with 5G, everybody will be a professional broadcaster. Everybody will be a creator with high speed. We're enabling everybody to have a 4K or even an 8K camera high speed, and you can actually mint your own NFT. It's about really empowering and democratizing the computing power. Now, you mentioned about space. I think there's a lot of interesting thing coming with technology now in 5G. there is the ability, as part of the 3GPP standard, to have satellite-based communication as well. And of course, we're super proud that we're to send our Snapdragon to Mars as part of the Mars helicopter. So thank you so much for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Well, Copernic
Thank
Space
you.
would
So
love to-
I'm going to have to wrap up there because I'm getting the sign from the back of the room that we're over time. But thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Cristiano. I just love your passion and enthusiasm for what you do. I've been scribbling furiously on all your predictions, but the democratization of computing power is going to be a key. But more importantly, the connected augmented reality glasses. You heard it here first. That's a prediction of the future for consumer applications. So please join me in thanking Cristiano for the presentation today.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you all of you for coming. I love to have an audience and to see people in person. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.